Okay, it's 7 o'clock. So, thanks for being here. Thanks for being here on time. Everybody's sitting in different places tonight. I feel like I'm looking at you guys through a mirror. Let's jump back into our study of David. We're in 1 Samuel 28. 28, 29 is where we'll be tonight. I always start with kind of a warm-up thing. I guess this falls under this category, but it's more of a, see if you can think of it. In what I'm saying, I don't think it'd be very fun, but can you think of any witches, mediums, sorcerers, or magicians in the Bible? You mean other than the Witch of Endor? That's right. We're going to be in the Witch of Endor.
I'm thinking of in Egypt in Moses' time, the magicians that could duplicate some of the stuff that Moses
the magicians that were replicating or trying to replicate some of Moses' miracles, which always was kind of a stumper for me.
In the New Testament, there's this guy that kind of wanted to buy the healing power
Okay.
from the apostles.
Yep. Simon Sorcerer. Yeah. Good. In the back here, Tyler.
Actually, I just wanted to quickly say, with you saying that those guys stumped you in that part. The other day, Austin told me something like the word that we translate to magic often in the Old Testament means something closer to like smoke and mirrors. Apparently, that's what he told me.
Maybe,
which would make
know.
sense.
I don't know, because it stumps me, because it seems like they did some of the things that Moses was doing. Yeah.
You can do a lot with smoke and mirrors.
Yes, you can. Anybody think of any other witches, mediums, sorcerers, or magicians? Acts chapter 16, the slave girl who's earning money for her masters by prophesying, and Paul gets so. She keeps saying, these men are from God, and Paul gets so aggravated that he's actually demon-possessed. So I don't know if that really counts. But she was prophesying. Martha says that doesn't count. Acts chapter 13, there's a Jewish sorcerer, Bar-Jesus, who opposed Paul. Paul struck him blind. Remember that? That's all I could come up with. My other question is, we're going to talk about the Witch of Endor, by the way. Times in Scripture when the dead appeared to people. That's the Haunted Mansion ghost, by the way, from Disney World. But can you think of any other times in Scripture, any times, when people who were dead ended up appearing to people? Okay, transfiguration. Yeah, they were dead. Yeah. Well, wait, Elijah wasn't dead, was he? He never died. Moses died and was buried. Okay. Yeah, he was at this transfiguration. He was. Okay, I thought of the transfiguration. Tonight's story is going to be Samuel.
What was the king who kind of came out of nowhere?
The king who came out of nowhere. Who was it?
I think he's talking about Melchizedek, but
okay.
we just don't know his past.
Yeah.
It says many righteous people returned when Jesus died.
At the resurrection. Yep. And I guess we could lump everybody that was raised from the dead, which isn't that many, but Jesus came back. He appeared after he died. The people who were. The saints who the graves were opened at the resurrection, Tabitha, Samuel, Samuel's where we're headed, but yeah.
And he was not happy.
And he was not happy. He was not happy. We're going to talk about that. Let's get caught back up to speed here with a recap as chapter 28 opens. If you remember, David and Abishai sneak into Saul's camp, and Abishai wants to kill Saul. David says, no, we're not going to kill him, but we're going to take his stuff. We're going to let him know that we could kill him. Saul vows again not to harm David. David doesn't trust Saul. Maybe he's not trusting God because he slips away to Gath, which is where the Philistines are. David gains the trust of King Achish, king of the Philistines, allowed to move to Ziklag with 600 of his mighty men and their households. By the way, David writes no psalms while he's in Ziklag. He's there for at least over a year, maybe longer than that, but no psalms are attributed to David while he is in Ziklag. David tells Achish, me and my guys are out raiding the Israelite villages, when in fact they were out raiding the enemies of God and wiping them out. He didn't want any witnesses left. And the stakes are about to be raised as chapter 28 opens. In those days, the Philistines gathered their forces to fight against Israel. Achish said to David, you must understand that you and your men will accompany me in the army. David said, then you will see for yourself what your servant can do. Philistines are about to do war with the Israelites. David has been living with the Philistines. He has gained the trust of King Achish. Achish says, you got to come with me and fight, because you've been killing Israelites anyways, which he hadn't. David says, you're going to see what I can do, which is a very ambiguous statement, by the way. I wonder what David thought when he said that. You're going to see what I can do. Achish replied, very well, I will make you my bodyguard for life. Which is so ironic to me, because this is the same guy that when David first showed up in Gath, he's running from Saul, and he was so terrified for his life that he acts insane, you remember? And Achish's response was, what do I need? One more crazy man in my kingdom? Get this guy out of here. Now he's like, you're going to be my bodyguard for life. You're okay, David. Something has changed. Okay, that's how chapter 28 opens. Hit the pause button for just a minute. Saul sees the Israelites getting ready to do battle with the Philistines. The Philistines had gathered their forces to fight against Israel. Saul is in full panic mode. Verse 3. Now Samuel was dead, and all Israel had mourned for him and buried him in his own town of Ramah. Saul had expelled the mediums and spiritualists from the land. I think I mentioned a week or two ago that the chronology is a little bit confusing here. Samuel's been dead for a while at this point. In fact, Josephus said he's been dead for 22 years. But it's not like Samuel had just died and maybe he wasn't really dead. Samuel's been in the grave for a long time. The Philistines assembled and came and set up camp at Shunem, while Saul gathered all the Israelites and set up camp at Gilboa. When Saul saw the Philistine army, he was afraid. Terror filled his heart. He inquired of the Lord, but the Lord did not answer him by dreams or Urim or prophets. Shocking, right? That God doesn't answer Saul. After killing 85 priests and all their families, including the high priest, after kind of sinning away the Spirit of God, Saul is not hearing from God. Saul then said to his attendants, find me a woman who's a medium so I may go and inquire of her. There's one in Endor, they said. What do you make of Saul's decision, find me a medium, find me a witch? What would you have done had you been Saul? It was a different place, different time, different culture, all that stuff, but Mike? Maybe find a priest. Okay. Well, the text says that he asked God. He inquired of God. Renee?
That was a signal to him that God wasn't with him.
Okay.
So I would have known if I had been God's chosen, and then all of a sudden God doesn't answer me, that's telling me something. Okay. That maybe God has slammed the door in my face.
Okay. I agree with that. So Saul says, find me a witch, find me a medium, find me a spiritualist. even though he has outlawed all of those things. It's kind of funny, not funny, telling, I think, that it didn't take them long to find one. Everybody said, oh, there's one in Endor, which, by the way, is not very far away from where they are. It's about 4 or 5 miles from where Saul is to Endor. In fact, let me show you on a map here where this is all taking place. The Jezreel Valley is a very famous area of northern Palestine, Israel. You see the Sea of Galilee up there in the right-hand corner. That's the Mediterranean Sea on the left that you just see a corner of. The Jezreel Valley runs right through that pocket there. The Philistines' army planned their major assault there in the Jezreel Valley, also called the Valley of Megiddo, also referred to as the Valley of Armageddon, because so many famous battles had taken place there. In fact, that word would be synonymous with battles of great decision. It was a trade route. We're told if you see, there's a circle there around Megiddo. If you go straight to the right, you see Shunem there. That's where the Philistines were gathered. Down at the very bottom towards the right is Mount Gilboa, but the Gilboa region, that's where the Israelites are gathered. So you got this valley between the Israelites and the Philistines. That valley is the same place where Deborah and Barak defeated Sisera. That valley is the same place where Gideon defeats the Midianites. Josiah, the king, was killed in the Jezreel Valley. There are a lot of really famous battles that take place in that valley. Let me show you a modern-day picture. That is the Jezreel Valley, Valley of Megiddo, the Valley of Armageddon. Marcia, we were in that same spot right there. And I got to tell you, it is exactly like you think it's going to look. It's a really arid area, except for this huge valley, and it is green as can be. It's incredibly fertile. It's beautiful. You can see Mount Tabor, across the way. It was a kind of a crossroads between Mesopotamia and Egypt. Really important section of land. It was an important part of the Promised Land. However, Joshua couldn't drive the Canaanites out of the Jezreel Valley. He couldn't do it because that was the one place where those iron chariots were very effective. And so the Israelites never did, when Joshua and the Israelites came into the Promised Land, they never actually drove the Canaanites out of the Jezreel Valley. It's a natural corridor, which is a big trade route. It was really an important part of the country. And that is where Saul is about to do battle with the Philistines. But before he goes to battle, he goes to see a witch. Verse 8. So Saul disguised himself, putting on other clothes, and at night he and 2 men went to the woman. Consult a spirit for me, he said, and bring up for me the one I name. But the woman said to him, surely you know what Saul has done. He's cut off the mediums and spiritualists from the land. Why have you set a trap for my life to bring about my death? Kind of interesting. She doesn't recognize the tallest guy in the land. I get it that, okay, I've never seen the king, actually, but he's the tallest guy in the land. Verse 10, Saul swore to her by the Lord, as surely as the Lord lives, you will not be punished for this. I'm not sure Saul is the right guy to be swearing by the Lord, but he does. Yeah. Then the woman asked, whom shall I bring up for you? Bring up Samuel, he said. When the woman saw Samuel, she cried out at the top of her voice and said to Saul, why have you deceived me? You are Saul. The king said to her, don't be afraid. What do you see? The woman said, I see a spirit coming up out of the ground. What does he look like? An old man wearing a robe is coming up, she said. Then Saul knew it was Samuel, and he bowed down and prostrated himself with his face to the ground. Okay. Saul says, bring up a spirit for me. Who? Samuel. but she does it. There is a tremendous amount of conversation, disagreement, different ideas about what is going on and what actually happened at the Witch of Endor there. What do y'all think? What actually happened here? What just happened? Ron.
Yeah, I've had a lot of trouble with this verse because, I've always, I think of mediums and witches, that's a bunch of nonsense, right? And it's just people trying to rip people off, right? And do things they're not supposed to do. But, obviously it worked. She was able to conjure someone up, and it was really that person. Now, it could very well be that God orchestrated this because, and probably the medium was thinking, wow, this never worked before. It's suddenly working. But yeah, it kind of almost thinks that, wow, this, people might come away with this thinking, well, what mediums do actually works. But I don't believe so. I don't believe that's the case. I believe that God is the one who brought about this, but again, like I said, I've had a lot of trouble with understanding that.
This is a difficult passage on a lot of levels. Difficult story on a lot of levels. Not just what actually happened, but why did it happen that way? What do you think, Casma?
Well, I don't put beyond things like this happening, like Ron said, God orchestrates things. But I feel that Samuel revealed to her that this was Saul. I don't think that she recognized it on her own. I think that after conjuring up, or she thought she did, Samuel, he is the one who revealed to her that this was Saul.
Okay. Now, there's a lot of people who believe, no, this never actually happened. This was some kind of, either she was a charlatan or, this whole, that it wasn't really Samuel. So there's a whole group that says this was not Samuel. It doesn't happen like we kind of imagined it did. What do you think, Mike?
I don't know. I could be just kind of rationalizing or something, but God can work through anybody.
Okay.
And can you,
Sure.
if you think of that, God working through this medium, this witch, this anti-person of all the people, the religious people, that's scary and also degrading to Paul. He won't talk to Paul personally, but he'll let it happen through this source that Saul, had destroyed and got rid of because they're so evil. And now, what's that saying? Sounds like he's kind of in a way saying you're going to be joining these evil people.
Which is such a, Saul's tried to talk to God. He's tried to get in touch with God. God is not answering him. Why does he answer Saul through a witch? Because he's answering him now, What do you think, Daryl?
It's kind of difficult. If you're going to call this incident into question, then you might as well start questioning everything else. The existence of heaven, whether or not that's true.
Okay.
How can you kind of, why is this one instance all of a sudden unusual to believe when there's been so many other things, bringing people back from the dead? It's all sorts of stuff. Then if you don't believe this one, the other ones are suspect.
Okay. Do you have a thought, Jeannie? Just a second here. Matt's getting here.
I just think that if God puts it there, that's where it is.
Okay.
And so there are two spirits, powers in the world. There's God, and He's Almighty. He's the Almighty One. But there's another spirit too, and even Jesus in the New Testament was always taking out spirits from people and demons and that kind of stuff. And when I grew up, I had aunts that used to go to these spiritualists all the time, and trying to find out this and trying to find out that. There's power in the evil too. Not comparatively, but there is. And I don't know what to say except for I read it and I believe what happened. Do I think God was pleased with that? No, I don't think He he was. That's why he got rid of all the spiritualists to begin with, and then he goes to see one. So
There's a lot of people who believe this wasn't spirit, this wasn't God at work. This was power of darkness at work.
Yeah. See, I don't think that, but I do think that he wasn't, Saul didn't, I keep saying that wrong, I'm sorry. He didn't ask for God directly through the medium.
Okay.
He asked for
Samuel.
So that might, but I think the medium, she was shocked that it was, to learn that it was Saul
Seemed to
right
be.
there. And I think someone said Samuel told her that, but maybe she was also shocked that it was really happening. Or
Yeah,
something.
could be.
It's,
Here's my, a lot of people will say, well, this is a great instance of this is what happens when you die. Or you actually can speak to people who are passed away. Go to a medium and you can talk to people. You can talk to my great granddad. This is proof that my granddad can see me. He knows what's going on in my life. He's watching from above or from below. I don't know. Ron.
And that's why I think that I have a problem with this scripture, because it kind of serves as a stumbling block to me. It's like it almost says, hey, this actually works, when I don't believe mediums, the forces of darkness can do what she did. It was all God, but it was a situation where, someone can point to it, like you say, and say, well, hey, I can, go to a medium and conjure up the dead, and which I don't believe that's possible, to go through darkness like that.
Here's my opinion. I think Samuel showed up. I think Samuel was there. Apparently, at least to begin with, only this lady can see him. Her description of Samuel is an old man wearing robes, which isn't real specific to a dead guy, right? I would think that wouldn't exclude a whole lot of dead people. However, the spirit, or whatever it was that came back and spoke, knew Saul's backstory. He knew the conversations that he had had with Saul in the past. He prophesies about what's going to happen to Saul and his sons and the armies, and his prophecy is correct. Still, for me, my problem is reconciling witchcraft with divine sanction. Because long before this, God makes a statement about witchcraft and the occult and all of those things. Is this God at work? Is it spirit of darkness? Was she a charlatan? If it's God at work, which I think it is, by the way, but I still struggle with it, why did he choose to speak through a witch? Daryl.
It's very difficult. I know the Bible tells us this: if you believe in God, you must also believe in Satan as well. And we all know that he exists, but it's kind of like this is 2025. I don't know the last time I've seen anything like that. I know there's been times when I was working, we had people that I think were just pure evil. I think I've actually stared at somebody who was nothing but evil. And you can see that in a person. But as far as being able to, I don't know, see it in this day and time and stuff, because people will tell you, say, we don't see miracles anymore, we can't see different things that have occurred back in the scriptures anymore, and that makes it difficult for us in this day and time to try and understand what's really going on,
Yeah. Kind of interesting, too, that Saul, I think, when Saul says, I want to talk to Samuel, I think he sort of thought he could talk to Samuel. When Samuel shows up, Saul doesn't seem very terrified. In fact, he's asking questions. He bowed down and prostrated himself, not he collapsed in fear and amazement. It's a curious story. Tyler.
Oh, I was just thinking when you were asking why a witch. Well, I was just thinking maybe he chose to do it through a witch for the same reason he chose to do things through a prostitute or a weak man or anyone else that seems sinful or unlikely.
Okay, that's fair. Bruce. Wait, you got to wait for the mic. That's the rules.
My voice, I got teacher voice. So, my question is, in the translations, is there a difference between the word medium and the word witch? Because if we think about those two things, they are kind of two different things. A medium is someone who has that ability to be that conduit between, or what we would say
what's
is
the word necrom?
yeah,
something
or like a
connecting
again a
the
conduit
dead to the
between the
living.
world we know and then
Yeah.
possibly the spirit world versus what we would consider a witch to be someone who conjures spells and things like that. Is there a difference in the translation because Saul asked specifically for a medium, or did he ask for a witch, and is the term interchangeable?
I can't answer that exactly, but the context is certainly he's not asking for a magician, he's not asking for tricks, he's not asking for spells. He's asking for someone to connect to the dead, whether that's a spiritualist, a medium, whatever that is. Now, some translations do say witch. I'm trying to think which one it is that does anybody have another translation there? Chris isn't here with his New American Standard to find out what's closest to the Greek, I guess. But it's certainly the idea of I want to talk to the dead. I don't need a spell. And you're right. Mike. Over here, yeah.
I mean, you made reference to this earlier too, but like this, it wasn't Saul's idea to kick these people out. It was Levitical law.
Yep.
I think it's like Leviticus 19 talks about like, do not consult with these people, stay away from them, have no part to do with them. So there's something, at least during the time, there was some aspect of it. It wasn't just for the optics of it. You weren't supposed to be around these people. And so there's definitely something at play that I think we don't understand or we're not meant to understand about that.
Hold that thought. Yeah. Now she does say, Saul drove us all out. Saul's gotten rid of us. But you're right, it wasn't Saul's idea. It was God's idea to get rid of the spiritualists, the mediums, the everybody working with the occult. Let's kind of get the rest of this story, and then I want to make a comment or two. Verse 15, Samuel said to Saul, "Why have you disturbed me by bringing me up?" "I'm in great distress," Saul said. "The Philistines are fighting against me, and God has turned away from me. He no longer answers me, either by prophets or by dreams, so I've called on you to tell me what to do." Samuel said, and Samuel seems to be speaking directly to Saul now, obviously. "Why do you consult me now that the Lord has turned away from you and become your enemy?" That was mentioned. "The Lord has done what he predicted through me. The Lord has torn the kingdom out of your hands and given it to one of your neighbors, to David, because you did not obey the Lord or carry out his fierce wrath against the Amalekites, and the Lord has done this to you today." Look what verse 19 says. "The Lord will hand over both Israel and you to the Philistines, and tomorrow you and your sons will be with me. The Lord will also hand over the army of Israel to the Philistines." Immediately Saul fell full length on the ground, filled with fear because of Samuel's words. His strength was gone, for he had not eaten anything all that day and night. Okay, now Saul is terrified because Samuel's message to Saul is, the Lord has turned away from you. The Lord is now your enemy. The Lord is, again, giving your kingdom to David. Tomorrow, you, your sons, are all going to be with me, and you're going to be defeated. The Philistines are going to defeat you. Here's the amazing thing to me, and yet I say it's amazing, and we do it all the time. Saul led the Israelites into a battle he knew he was going to lose. Samuel has told him, you're not only are you going to lose, And we're going to see in just a minute, this isn't like a little skirmish. This is a major battle. Not only are you going to lose, Saul, you're going to be killed. Not only are you going to be killed, your sons are going to be killed. And yet Saul goes to battle the next day, which kind of blows my mind. You know, if I was told, hey, you're going to die, your kids are going to die if you do this, I would not do that. Okay? And yet, I say that, we go, yeah, why in the world, why didn't he, run away? Why didn't he make different plans? And yet, over and over again in Scripture, God tells me, if you do this, something you don't want to happen is going to happen. And I do it. I shake my head at Saul and say, what a fool. Do you not believe that God is going to, fulfill His promise? And then I find myself kind of making those same mistakes sometimes. But it like I said, it kind of blows my mind with Saul taking all of the Israelites into a battle. He's been promised, you're going to lose. You're going to die. Your sons are going to die. Okay, let's go. So chapter 28 ends actually with this medium, this witch of Endor, showing Saul kindness. She says, hey, I risked my life for you. Did what you asked me to do, but Saul, you need to eat something. You're a mess. You don't look so good. He doesn't want to eat anything, but this woman and his cohorts convince him to eat. And actually, she kills the fatted calf for him. But I don't want to leave this section without making sure that we're clear about what God thinks about the occult. Okay? Mike brought it up, but let me just share some scriptures with you. Leviticus 20. A man or woman who is a medium or spiritist among you must be put to death. You are to stone them. Their blood will be on their own heads. Deuteronomy 18. Let no one be found among you who sacrifices his son or daughter in the fire, who practices divination or sorcery, interprets omens, engages in witchcraft, or casts spells, or who is a medium or spiritist, or who consults the dead. Anyone who does these things is detestable to the Lord. Well, that's Old Testament. Okay, let's go to the New Testament. Galatians 5, 19, that whole list. The acts of the spiritual nature are obvious. Sexual immorality, impurity and debauchery, idolatry, and witchcraft. He goes through the rest of the list and says, these people aren't going to inherit the kingdom of God. Anyone who lives like this is not going to inherit the kingdom of God. God is specific. Stay away from this stuff. Have nothing to do with the occult. There's a parallel verse, by the way, in 1 Chronicles. By the way, before I get to 1 Chronicles, I'll say this. I land where Ron does. I look at people now like, oh, I'll tell you a fortune, the whole bit. No, you can't. You want my money. I see it as, somebody trying to take advantage of somebody that letting themselves be taken advantage of. And yet, there is something, there is another force at work. There is a dark spirit realm. And I think God is still clear. Stay away from it. Just stay away from it. Do not go there. That is a Pandora's box that you do not want to open. A reference to, and it's amazing to me, it has been, 20 years ago when I was working with teenagers. I kind of, I'm not going to do that. It is fascinating to our kids and grandkids. This stuff is fascinating because the message is everywhere. I know I sound like an old man, but it's true. The music they're listening to, the messages that they're hearing, it's just everywhere. And we need to be really careful what our children, what our grandchildren are receiving and taking in about all this stuff with, I had a Ouija board growing up. And we thought it was fun. We thought it was stupid. We thought it was just silly. I don't think it's silly. I think it's dangerous. That's where I fall. Stay away from it. Don't go there. God says stay away from it for a reason. I think there's something there. I can't explain it, and I don't know what it is other than it's evil. And so I'm going to stay away from it, and I want to try to tell other people to stay away from it as well.
We're supposed to stay away from all evil, but when God specifies,
Yeah.
and says, don't. And that is pretty broad, because I used to be, before I became a Christian, into, what do you call it? I can't even think about it because I have left it so far behind. Your what do you call it? Astrology?
Astrology, okay.
Astrology, okay. Whether I was this or I was that, and some people now have asked me, people I don't know too well, what sign are you? I go, I don't do signs. I don't do any. I don't do Halloween. I don't do any of that because I know the innocence of the children. I also know the evil of the Satan behind it. So can it be, I don't do it.
Yeah. I think it's wise. Daryl.
I think the moral of the story is nothing good has ever come from waking up the dead and asking them questions.
Maybe that's it. There you go. Ron.
Yeah, we talk about participating, in these type of things, and Jeannie was mentioning the Halloween and stuff like that. I mean, I used to enjoy going to haunted houses. I found them humorous. I found them comedy. I just don't, I don't think they're good. I don't think they're good to be around. It's just because, my wife has always told me, she believes that there are demons that are roam the earth, which is, I think she's absolutely right, and I think that those type of things, will get people into that sort of mindset, and we should just stay away from it.
Satan doesn't attack us with fangs and death. He attacks us with, this looks pretty good, looks pretty, harmless. And there's ways to do, a lot of those things. I'm excited about our fall festival because it's not a haunted house. We're gonna have a fall festival, and there's ways to do those things that I think honors God and is safe for our kids. And as a grandparent now, that's where I try to kind of steer my kids and my grandkids. But I do want to share with you a parallel verse because it's I don't know, it's a little bit confusing too. In 1 Chronicles 10 says, Saul died because he was unfaithful to the Lord. He did not keep the word of the Lord and even consulted a medium for guidance and did not inquire of the Lord. So the Lord put him to death and turned the kingdom over to David, son of Jesse. What do you make of those two statements? Saul did not inquire of the Lord. Well, 1 Samuel says he inquired of the Lord, but the Lord did not answer him by dreams or Urim or prophets. So the Lord put him to death. 1 Samuel says Saul took his own life, fell on a sword. Is that a contradiction? Jackie. Throw it out.
So Saul did not have a history of, if he did consult Samuel and he didn't like what he was told, he did what he wanted to do anyway. He did not have a history of either believing the Lord, following the Lord, whatever. And if you look at these stories that have been building up, he's twice escaped death from the very person he's been trying to put to death. And now here he finds himself in the biggest predicament of his life, and he finally decides, I'll ask God. And God was done with him at that point. And so why wouldn't he go to a medium? I mean, he had consulted other people about things before and really just did what he wanted to do, no matter what. He had known for a long time that the kingdom would be taken away from him. I think this was the straw that broke the camel's back. I think he finally gets it. God is going to give the kingdom to someone else because Saul has not followed God. He has not honored God. Why wouldn't he go to a medium? He's still looking for the answer he wants from somebody.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, even back with the Amalekites, God said, do this. And Saul said, that's exactly what I did. No, you didn't. You didn't do what I told you to do. Down here and then over here, Matt, down to Carol.
And how could he really ask the police after what he did to Elimelech? Would any of them?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
he did. If I was a priest, I would want to tell Saul anything.
Point. Nicole.
So literally it is a contradiction, the two, but I don't think that Saul really was inquiring the Lord's answer. And so he got it, whether he was truly requiring or inquiring it or not, and the Lord did put him to death, whether he fell on his own sword. So no, there's no contradiction.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And that's a little bit what Jackie was saying too, because he gets the answer. You're going to, basically he's asking, what do I do? Well, don't fight him, you're going to die. He goes and fights him anyway. He was looking for his answer, not God's answer. And I think God used this as, okay, this is the time when it's going to David.
I mean, we can make anything fit, but we're referencing one point in time that Saul tried to inquire of God, but there were a lot of time before that he absolutely did not. So it's not like one time. Or maybe if Saul would have waited another 15 minutes, God would have replied. I don't know. Sometimes I think it's better to wait than go consult a medium.
I think that's a great point. I think that's a great point. What would I have done? Maybe I would have prayed and fasted and kept waiting. I don't know. But I think you're exactly right that he gave up on God. So yeah, there's that too. Hey, I thought we'd get a lot farther than this today, but we'll stop right there at 7:42. Next week, we're going to look at, this story keeps bouncing back and forth. Here's Saul's, with the lady at Endor, and then we're going to go back to David next, because David's going to be asked to follow the Philistines into war against the Israelites, and that's going to be a problem for David. Or is it? So next week, we'll take a look at how David navigates trying to keep the Philistines happy, the Israelites safe, and his mighty men from stoning them. Yeah, we'll pick it up there next week. Let me stop with a prayer, and we'll be finished. Father, I thank you for allowing us to think and to study and to question, to dig a little bit. And I'm thankful that you keep reminding us that you're God, we're not, that you know exactly what's going on, you know exactly what we need and what we should be doing. And Father, I pray for wisdom, and I pray for a greater measure of your Spirit, that we can take you at your word and just believe what you've told us. Thank you for the story of David, the narrative that we read about, these things that happen to real people in real time. And I pray that we can not see it as a story long ago, far away, but this is how real people in real time need to respond to you. Give us that kind of faith. Give us that kind of obedience. Father, as we leave this place, I pray that you keep us safe. I pray that you would use us in every way. Thank you for Jesus, and I pray it in his name. Amen.